Hello, my name's Audrey Zatopek, and welcome to my career counseling lecture on the first chapter of the textbook, Foundations of Career Counseling, a Case-Based Approach. So chapter 1 is on the history of work, globalization, and contemporary client issues. So why would someone seek out career counseling? Now, this is something that you're going to become more and more confident about the answer to as you go through this course. But some different answers are retirement, boredom. Maybe they've reached a glass ceiling at their job where they feel like they can't advance any further. Health changes, marriage, being an empty nester. So maybe kids go off to college and they want to do something different with their life. Spouses out acting on new interests, and so they want to do the same thing. A recent death may lend to some existential perspective where they're thinking about the purpose of their life and things like that. An unhealthy work environment, moving to a new place, so they have to find a new job, dissatisfaction in the current job, not feeling challenged enough, experiencing a lack of purpose, and there are many more reasons. But just trying to get you guys' brains thinking a little bit about, like, why does career counseling matter? Well, a lot of people go through a lot of the stuff listed here in this slide, right? So it's just a means of helping you understand the importance of this topic. So overview. So this set of slides is going to go over career counseling vocabulary, issues related to career counseling, history lessons, Thomas Friedman lecture, some changes in the world of work, and then a cast of clients. So last week, potentially, depending on what Dr. Whitaker has done with you guys, if anything, you were asked to discuss similarities and differences in the terms work, job, and career. Chapter 1 addressed these terms and other terms. And if you didn't do anything last week, don't worry. I don't think you were required to. I think that this is language that the creator of these slides used because maybe she did something first. So some terms: avocation, career, job, lifestyle, occupation, vocation, and work. So I found this wonderful little slide, and it has these vocabulary words all listed with what their definitions are. I believe it's in your textbook, and it's great. It just puts out there what each one of these things is. So avocation, unpaid activities during your leisure time. Your career, it's a broad term referring to the vocational activities you choose over a lifetime. So what do you choose throughout your life to do? A job usually refers to a paid position, but payment's not required. It has to do with specific tasks you do. Lifestyle is how you live your life. It can include vocational things, avocational things, as well as balancing of family life roles. So whether you're a parent or you're an athlete or these different things. Occupation has to do with skills and jobs that lead to completing similar tasks through those jobs. This is specific to paid work. A vocation is a paid employment in a job or occupation, and then work is an expenditure of energy and effort for paid employment and unpaid activities as well. So when we use the world of work phrase, it's referring to paid employment. Okay, so career-related issues. So career counselors look at early career development issues, like, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know what my skills are. I don't know how to make a resume. How do you do an interview? What do you wear to an interview? I don't know what my interests are. I wanted to be this, but now I'm not so sure. This could even look like clients that are still in college that they are trying to figure out, what should my major be? Maybe they've changed it like 4 times, right? They're not really sure. So they're kind of figuring out, what's the stage that I want to set to build my job life on, right? Employment issues. So this could be a crummy job market leading to not very many jobs being available. It could lead to not knowing how to do applications. It could be an issue related to lack of access to computers or internet, so they can't apply for different jobs. It could be an issue of maybe they don't make enough money in the job that they're currently in. And so they're trying to get other jobs or find jobs that pay more, but their hours are limited in terms of what they can offer for another job. Career success and satisfaction. That could look like I'm in a dead-end job. I've been here 20 years and it's boring. I don't like it anymore. I don't feel challenged. I've gone as far as I can. It can be, I love my job, but I just want to do something different. It could look like going back to school, potentially, right? They might want to go back to school and get a master's or a doctorate or even a bachelor's or associate, or maybe a trade school, something like welding, or they want to go back and do an esthetician's license and do all the schooling to do hair and nails and things like that. And then life balance. Maybe they've got really high goals for their career, or maybe they look at their career as being a stay-at-home parent, which absolutely requires lots of work. And they struggle to balance mental health, physical health, and the career or the job or the responsibilities of some position that they have in their life. They have a hard time balancing that. And I've seen that so many times, people coming in burnt out, maybe they've got compassion fatigue from being a helper in some kind of helping position, whether it's a doctor, an EMT, therapist, things like that. So these are some different issues that career counselors can run into, among many others. I mean, of course, balance, that also could look like maybe somebody went through a trauma and they can't focus on their job. They're having nightmares every night. They're having flashbacks. They're avoidant. They're jumpy. They're not sleeping. That could absolutely impact someone's employment. You may often see people with career issues. They come in because they're on short-term disability because of something that happened. They just can't work. And so they want help with being able to go back to work and preparing for that adequately. I even have a client that I'm working with on that right now. So those are just some ideas. Okay, so brief history lesson looking at the Industrial Revolution, Frank Parsons, the Digital Revolution, and globalization. So Industrial Revolution was from 1820 to 70. It went from inheriting to choosing a career. So it used to be like, my parents are farmers, I'm a farmer. My parents are lawyers, I'm a lawyer, right? To people developing more individualized, independent career decision-making. There was also a move from total agrarian rural economies, which has to do with farming and those kinds of things, to more industrial goods focused economy. The role of technology advances absolutely played a role in the development of many things, right? If you can access computer or phones, there's more electricity, indoor plumbing, all these different kinds of things allowed for people, even elevators, they allowed people to work longer or better work environments. Why would anybody want to work in a 100-story building if there's no elevators? So even with something like elevators being developed, companies could build bigger buildings perhaps, and maybe house more employees, for an example. Also geographic mobility, right? With the, I believe, let me double check my history. Car. So the first car invented was in 1886. So it wasn't until a little bit later. Let me double check that, because I'm not sure if that's 100% right. 1888. So the first production of automobiles was Carl Benz in 1888 in Germany. So it wasn't until after this Industrial Revolution, but people are more mobile. Maybe there's more jobs available. They don't have to go out to rural areas in order to work. They can do more things near home or in these buildings, which lent to a need for career counseling, people figuring out what they want to do, all these kinds of things. So Frank Parson, his early career experiences were from highly paid, he went from being a highly paid engineer to a poorly paid laborer, went from living in the land of the haves to living in the land of the have-nots. Insights for him were profound socioeconomic disparities. So he discovered a disconnect between the different socioeconomic classes and job opportunity. And he identified there was a need for career development across the population. So his response to that insight was to engage in social justice activism and advocacy. His educational approach to career development and career preparation was very helpful to people, and he even wrote a book, Choosing a Vocation, that came out in 1909, which was about helping people understand themselves better. He is considered the father of vocational guidance. So the digital revolution was 1980 to present. Three primary effects of the digital revolution on work: increased productivity and effectiveness, right? So instead of having to use a typewriter and white out and put the page in and do all these things, laptops that you can take everywhere, cell phones where you can have your email on it, email itself, the internet, a lot was made more productive and more effective because of digital change. It also altered the nature and expanded the boundaries of the workplace. So meaning you could take work home potentially, or you could work from home, which arguably I would say is something that's been made exceedingly clear in the last couple of years with the pandemic going on, right? We've seen a lot of people have been able to do their jobs from home that usually maybe would have been thought to only be able to be done from an office. So yeah, the digital revolution contributed to that. And then it also contributed directly to the rapid acceleration of globalization by making it technologically feasible. So I found this cool little graphic on the internet, which you can just Google brief history of digital revolution and go to the images on Google, and it'll give that to you. But you can, of course, pause this. I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so you can see what it says. So 1947, transistor, 1950, 1951, right? So APRANET came out in 1969. 71, the first email is sent. Okay. 1972, games are released, along with precursor to the iconic game Pong. Laptop is born in 1981. Right, first cell phone in 1984. 10-hour charge provided 30 minutes of use. Can you guys imagine? Oh my gosh, that would be horrible. Okay. Fully digital camera release in 1988 for up to 10 photos being stored. Imagine all of us having thousands of pictures on our phones now, right? Okay, World Wide Web, WWW, that's what it stands for if you didn't know that, World Wide Web, www. Okay, people using the internet. Browsers used, commercial dial-up on 92. If you're 30 or older like me, you remember the dial-up, right? You had to wait for it to dial up and connect to use AOL and all these things. Smartphone released in 94, which supported calls, emails, and fax. Social media, 6 Degrees, released in 97. Bluetooth in 99, broadband. Skype in 2003. Facebook born in 2004. YouTube, 2005. iPhone started in 2007. Commercial introduction of 3D printers. If anyone doesn't know what that is, they're pretty cool. You can Google that as well. Apple launches the iPad, Bitcoin. Google's testing driverless cars in 2012. Virtual reality headset in 2016. And then we're all living in the information age, from healthcare to education. Technology has transformed our lives, and the digital revolution shows no sign of slowing down. It just keeps on growing. That's a pretty cool little image, I thought, that I wanted to share with y'all. Okay, and takeaway message. So the history of career counseling is also the history of the counseling profession. It was the foundation of counseling. So career counseling is where counseling started. Technological and societal changes have changed the nature of work and in turn the profession of career counseling. So industrial revolution involved mass production, and the digital revolution led to globalization. So the major theme for both of those revolutions is technology changes led to societal changes, led to work changes, which led to career counseling needs, which brings us to now, right? Being in career counseling classes, counseling students. So changes in the world of work, kind of already said these things, but job opportunities increased, which lent to post-secondary training needs, which means education beyond high school. So need for bachelor's degrees, need for master's degrees, need for focus on accounting so that accountants can learn how to be accountants. And it also led to more job security and career stability. So also, the US was no longer the sole land of opportunity. Major international competitors like China and India became available, maybe they offered work to Americans to work abroad or to move and work internationally. Lucrative low-skill manufacturing jobs are less plentiful and increasingly outsourced. So, you know, a lot of the things that we get in the United States, made in China, made in India, made in Vietnam, made anywhere but here a lot of the time. And so that outsourcing happened with the world of work. More opportunities in knowledge-based professions were created. So if you are special, if you're a counselor and your license is a counselor, more counseling is open if you have that education, right? And then increased opportunities for women and minorities have also occurred. So post-secondary training needs, looking more closely at that, it's increasingly difficult to earn a living wage with high school education or less. And so the percentages are going up and up. How many people have post-bachelorate degrees as time goes by? It used to be a very, very small percentage of people had a master's degree and a very small percentage of people had doctorates, but the rates of people having them are actually increasing. And so it's almost like it's expected that people go past high school in a lot of ways, but there are definitely jobs that you can make a lot of money in. You don't even have anything beyond high school, or maybe you didn't even finish high school. Like Bill Gates, for example, he didn't go to college. He only went to high school. So it's possible to be successful. I'm a firm believer in, and you can even say this to clients, you know, if it takes a degree or some kind of certification or training or schooling or whatever to do what you want to do, go get yourself a piece of paper. You know, you don't have to have a PhD to reflect that you're smart. You can be smart without that. But like for me, for example, I want to be a master's student professor for counseling students, and I need a PhD in order to do that. So here I am helping teach this class for Dr. Whitaker. So yeah, something to consider for your own selves and for how you do career counseling with clients. There's importance of lifelong learning and widespread concern about the quality of K through 12 education in terms of our kids being prepared for college and for careers in high school. There's a lot of people that think, no, they're not. Like you leave high school, you don't know how to do taxes. You don't know how to do a lot of things. You don't know how to go do an interview. You don't usually know how to do a resume. Like a lot of these things don't get taught unless maybe you take some electives that do those things. And then Common Core is also a concern, which I never got taught that. So I don't have tons of familiarity with it, but I watched a video on how they did math once and I was so confused. So maybe that's the problem, is it's more challenging, or it's a newer form of learning that isn't really employed in the working world. I'm not sure. Also with job changes relevant to security and stability, young adults can no longer reasonably expect to achieve as much or more career success and financial stability as their parents. Times have shifted, payments shifted, the economy shifted. There's also a shift from single career decision to multiple careers over one's lifetime. So a lot of our parents and grandparents are likely to have worked at the same place for 30 years or 20 years. And that's not super common anymore. A lot of people maybe change jobs once a year or maybe even more often than that. It can definitely reflect job instability in someone or instability in someone, where it's like, why do they have so many jobs? They jump around a lot. Like, why can't they stay hired? And it can make it look like you're not a good employee. But like for a counselor, for example, I think it looks okay. Like I try to stay anywhere that I work for at least a year if I can take it. I've only left one place after a few months because I didn't like the management style. But I would spend a year here, a year there, a year here, a year there to be able to grow my counseling experience, right? So I started at a residential substance abuse treatment facility. Then I worked at probation for 2 years. Then I worked at a psychiatric hospital for over a year. And now I'm in group private practice. I've been there almost 3 years. I also worked at a jail for about 9 months as needed. And then I've done BetterHelp online just because I'm trying to get exposure to different kinds of populations that might walk in my door at private practice. I don't want to be surprised or caught off guard. I want to have tried or been exposed to working with individuals from all walks of life, because you never know what a client might walk in your office with. And so I wanted that confidence. So I jumped around in that way. But it was by choice. It wasn't because I got fired. It wasn't because I quit. It was, I found another opportunity that was new and challenging, and I decided to go. So it's it can be a normal thing to jump around, but you just want to caution people about, how frequently are you changing your job? Because it can look not so great to employers depending on that frequency. If you have a new job every month, like that doesn't look good. Okay. There's also a change in the psychological relationship between employers and employees. So the right to work versus unionization. Employers are less committed to their employees. Employees are increasingly mobile and rootless. So they're wanting to be flexible and move around. And they benefit from self-management of their careers. And there's also the protein career to consider. Okay, so protein career name is also just something to understand a little bit more. I had to remind myself looking it up here. It's describing a career that's driven by an individual and not by the organization. So that's basically what this other piece right before it said. Okay, next slide. So insights from Thomas Friedman in his best-selling book, The World is Flat. He explores three eras of globalization and their impact on the world of work. As you watch the video available on YouTube, pay specific attention to the relationship among technological changes, societal changes, and work changes. And I went to YouTube and looked it up, and it's the Friedman lecture at MIT. You can go check that out if you want to. I think it's like 45 minutes long. Okay. Also within the world of work, there have been changes in opportunities, training needs, job security, career stability, which we were just talking about. In terms of opportunities within the world of work, the U.S. no longer is considered the land of opportunity because there's more opportunity worldwide. There's been a shift from manufacturing sector to knowledge-based professions like information technology, health sciences, engineering, and outsourcing of lower skilled jobs, right? Like sending or getting clothes made in another country, for example. And there are also fewer limits on women and minorities based on stereotypes, biases, and outright discrimination. There's also, the different acts that are in place for harassment in the workplace and things like that that are much more strongly enforced. Training needs in 1973, 72% of jobs in the US were filled by people with a high school diploma or less. It was your passport to the American dream. Whereas in 2007, only 41% of the jobs in the US were filled by people with a high school diploma or less. Predictions for 2018 that only 33% of the jobs in the US will be available to people with a high school diploma or less. So again, the need for post-secondary education is there. I found this image, which I thought was interesting to share with you on education and training. So you can see the unemployment rate in 2020 for people with less than a high school degree was 11.7%. versus high school, some college, associates, bachelors, so on and so forth. So you see the more educated the group of people, the cohort of people, the lower their unemployment rate in 2020 versus also looking at earnings in 2020, the differences with different levels of education. So these are just things to look at and consider. Also can be part of the education for clients. Where do you want to fall on your income? And you know what? I've seen some people only have a high school degree. These are median. Remember, they're median, which means the middle. So you can have people making $1 million over here on the less than high school column, but they're not being considered because it's not the median, right? So this isn't to say you have to have a higher degree to make more money. It's just saying that's the median. Okay, so there's much less job security and career stability as compared to the past. Young people can no longer expect to achieve that same experience of success as their parents, and it's no longer geared towards their decision making is no longer geared towards a single decision where they choose this lifelong, for the rest of my life, I'm gonna be da da da. A lot of people go back to school. I don't know about those of you watching this video, but in my counseling cohort, there was only like 5 or 6 of us that were like 22 just out of college. A lot of my classmates were a police officer, a teacher, a mediator, a lawyer, something else, and then came back to school in their 40s and 50s, and some of them even in their 60s and 70s to get a master's degree in counseling. So there's a lot of people being open to changing things up. So globalization also led to a different psychological relationship between seasoned workers and employers. There's less bargaining power decreased employer loyalty to longtime employees, which led to increased use of downsizing, offshoring, outsourcing, other strategies. And workers are expected to take more responsibility for their own career advancement, and consider opportunities outside an organization which they've been employed. So again, there's that boundaryless careers and protean careers piece. So next, also there's been change in the career counselor's role, facilitating multiple career decisions over the course of a lifetime, helping clients deal with realities of globalization, international events, immigration, emergence of new careers, so on and so forth, looking at the relationship between these factors and employability skills, right? Are you trained in Qualtrics? Are you trained Microsoft Office? Do you know how to use Adobe? Do you know how to use, what is that thing called? Like the image, I think it's just a P, I can't remember, but where you can edit graphics, right? Do you know how to use that? Do you know how to use math software? Do you know how to use SPSS? Do you know how to use Zoom or anything, right? So how employable are you based on what you know, what trainings you've had, certifications, and even as a counselor, you know, what licensure you have, right? What continuing education have you completed? What specializations do you have? Like these kinds of things might be things that employers are going to look at. So who needs counseling given the current nature of and likely changes in the world of work? And I kind of already answered that at the beginning. We're going to look at a cast of clients, so that these clients are intended to illustrate the breadth of individuals who could benefit from career counseling, the frequent overlap of personal career concerns, and the role of internal, external factors in prompting the need for career services. It's important to know that these clients are completely made up, and any resemblance to real people, living or dead, is totally coincidental. So, first person is Jensen. Welcome to Wayne's World. His employment situation: he's a factory line worker for 22 years at Ford Motor Company. Demographics: he's 40, a male, Caucasian European American with German ancestry. SES, which is socioeconomic status, is middle class, working class. His disability status is none. Sexual orientation is heterosexual straight. Religion, non-practicing Lutheran, and geographic region is Michigan, the Mitten State, right? Other information: he has a high school diploma. His family: he's divorced and shares joint custody of a teenage daughter. His trigger for coming to counseling was the anticipated layoff. So he's expecting he's going to get laid off from his job, and economic conditions. No psychological issues noted. And his Holland code is RCA. Okay, it's one person. So his career counseling needs would be, he's expecting he's going to get fired, so he needs to find something else, right? Or maybe figure out how he can retire, right? But at 40, that's not really likely the case, because 40 is still a working age typically. Now let's look at another client, Huang Li Mei, or Li Mei. So helping Li Mei blossom. Her employment situation is none. She's a full-time college student. Demographics: she's 19, female, Asian, Taiwanese. SES is upper class. She's not having any disability issues. Sexual orientation is heterosexual. Religion is non-practicing Buddhist. And her geographic region is Southern California. Other information: high school diploma, sophomore at Chapman University. And her family history: she's the youngest of 3 children, has one older sister who's 21, a sister at Stanford, and one other older brother, 25, that's in med school. Her parents reside in Flushing, New York. Her trigger for bringing her to counseling is a need to declare a major phase of life issue. She was referred to counseling by her doctor. Psychological issues: she's having depression or anxiety with somatic symptoms, which, what is somatic symptoms? That means she's having physical manifestation of the anxiety or depression, which could be nausea, headaches, back problems, physical pain in any way. And she's feeling overshadowed by high achieving older siblings. Her Holland code is IC. What's a Holland code? You'll see in the next chapter. This is chapter 1. Another person to consider, Lakeisha Maddox, doors and windows. So her employment situation: she's a homemaker, which is a stay-at-home mom. Demographic: she's 27, female, African American. SES is middle class, no disability status, but has diabetes. She's heterosexual, Baptist, and Baptist is her religion, and Geographic region is suburb of Atlanta, Georgia. Other information, education, a BA in psychology, family recently widowed, leaving her with 2 young children, ages 3 and 5. The trigger for coming to counseling was her husband was killed in an accident. So it's family stressor, right? Psychological issues, she's experiencing complicated grief, which what's the difference between grief and complicated grief? Complicated grief is longer lasting, long standing. So if she is having complicated grief, that means she's been grieving for a long time and can't get past it. Also depression, anger, and fear. And she's got $100,000 from her husband's life insurance. Her hauling code is SI. So this might be, I'm looking for, how can I make money? I don't even know what to do. I've never had a job before. I haven't worked since I was in high school, or, things like that. And so maybe, how long has she been widowed? You want to know that for sure. And how long has it been maybe since she worked, or what's her plan for work? These kinds of things. And she might also be looking for help with food stamps and things like that. You never know. So you'd have to inquire about such things. Another example. So Vincent Santiago Arroyo, caskets, closets, and careers. So his employment situation is he works part-time at a corner grocery bodega, and he's also a full-time high school student. So he's 17, male, Puerto Rican, lower SES, no disability status. Sexual orientation is gay, but not out to many. Religion is Catholic, and geographic region is South Bronx barrio of New York City. Other information, he's a junior in high school for family. His father was a firefighter who died on 9/11, the World Trade Center. His mother now raises him and his youngest sibling. Trigger, he's exploring post-secondary options with interest in the military. So remember, post-secondary is after high school. So this is a phase of life issue. He's trying to figure out, what am I going to do with my life after high school? I have no idea, right? Psychological issues, internalized homophobia, and his hauling code is ESR. It's another situation that could come in your office. Okay, Doris Bronner. So embitterment versus empowerment. So her employment situation, she's previously employed as an administrative assistant secretary. Demographics, 53, female, Caucasian, Jewish, lower middle class, no disability, heterosexual, non-observant religion. Geographic region, originally from Westwood, just outside LA, but moved to Omaha, Nebraska 20 years ago when her husband was transferred. Other information, has an associate's degree, unhappily married with an adult child. Trigger was that she was recently fired for poor work performance and attitude problems. Okay, psychological issues, anger, lack of insight. So that would mean she doesn't realize that she's causing the issue for herself, or maybe doesn't see how she plays a role in the issues that she's having. Feels stuck in her marriage due to finances, and her hauling code is ESR. So, I mean, just pausing for 1 second, because I think there's a couple more examples of people. People usually don't just come in, I want to find a job. Usually there's more to it when career counseling is happening. There's anxiety, there's depression, there's fear. I don't want to fail. The perfectionist in people comes out if they've got one. All these different kinds of things. I want to make my parents proud of me. I have to raise my kids. I need to make money, but I also want to do something different. And, it's juggling a lot of different things and acknowledging a lot of different things. Because maybe as a Jewish person, there's certain jobs she'd never work. And so she needs to be educated on other jobs that can be worked by her that fit her set of morals, values, and interests, right? Next one, Gillian Parker, golden handcuffs. So his employment situation, he's very successful. He's a partner with a big 4 auditing firm, Ernst Young and Young. Demographics, 39, female, Caucasian, 7/8 English, and 1/8 Suquamish Native American. SES, upper class, no disability, heterosexual, agnostic, and in Seattle, Washington, lives in the Green Lake area. Education, Ivy League, MBA, and a CPA. Family, married, no children. Dad worked for Boeing. Trigger, pending looming international assignment. So there's an upcoming big job thing that's happening that I don't know what to do about it. I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know how to manage the stress. I'm so worried about it. Psychological issues, chronic stress, Also wants to start family and is tired of relocating. Hall and Co to CEI. So career counseling can even look like managing the job you've got. Maybe you don't want something new. Maybe you don't want to go anywhere. You just need to manage feelings, thoughts about where you're at. Stressors, where you're at, right? And the last one, Juan Martinez. Bloques de construcción para un futuro nuevo. Oh, I minored in Spanish, so I speak Spanish. So employment situation was in construction, laborer. Demographics, 34, male, Hispanic, Latino, lower middle class. Disability status, has a herniated L4, L5 disc in his back. So that's lower back, lumbar spine. Heterosexual, non-observant Catholic, and lives in Fort Worth, Texas. Other information, and has a 10th grade education with no GED, married with 2 children. Trigger for coming to counseling, had a severe back injury resulting in inability to continue as a construction laborer, but not sufficient to qualify for disability income. I've seen that happen a lot. It's like they got a really bad injury, but it doesn't qualify. And so they still have to work even though they really hurt. No psychological issues noted. Hauling code is RC. So thinking about these clients, what are your reactions? Are you surprised? Which clients are particularly intriguing to you? And you can always rewind this video and go back and pause it and write a reflection. I'd love to hear any thoughts that you guys have to these questions in the chat below the video. That would be great if you want to offer some thoughts. But you can identify a top 3 choices of a client that you want to focus on, potentially for learning more about. I'm not sure if Dr. Whitaker is doing papers on these clients with you guys, but it would be something good for practice. Like, okay, I'm just going to write down Wayne's name, I'm going to write down whomever, and if they were my client, how would I treat them? It's just a way to practice case conceptualization. So even if there's not those papers required, that would just be a good mental practice to get in the habit of thinking about how would I help this person? Where would I start as you start learning more about career counseling? Final slide, career questions for the comments again. So I'd love for you to answer these questions and offer some answers to them, either one or the other or both. So one, what aspect of career counseling do you feel most confident about to this point and why? What aspect of career counseling do you feel most nervous about to this point and why? Please feel free to leave your answers in the comment section below. Thank you for listening to this lecture, and I'll see you in the next one.